Last video, I discussed my recent trip to Kings Island and Cedar Point and focused more on the experience as a whole. However, ranking coasters is one of my favorite things to do, so naturally I had to follow it up by ranking all the coasters I got to ride. Ohio is a very packed state, so just because a coaster on this list is low doesn't mean it's bad. For this video, I will only be ranking the coasters I rode during my past visit, since those are pretty much the top coasters at these two parks. And just remember that this list is purely my opinion, so if you disagree with my picks, feel free to let me know in the comments. These are the roller coasters of Ohio, ranked from worst to best. Coming in at the bottom here, at number 16, we have Val Raven, a B&M dive coaster. I've always been pretty negative about this ride, but at the end of the day, it's pretty fine for what it is. The first drop is great, but after that, the rest of the ride just kind of meanders around and doesn't do much for me. On top of this, the B&M vest restraints manage to staple me every single time I ride a coaster that has them. The only other B&M dive I've ridden is SheiKra, Busch Gardens, Tampa, and I find that one to be more fun considering the scenery around it as well as having a bit of a better layout. I'll be getting on Wrath of Rakshasa and Iron Menace soon, hopefully, so I'll be interested to see how they compare. Number 15 is Rugaroo. While this B&M floorless coaster is nothing super remarkable, Rugaroo does offer a solid ride with some nice whippy inversions and positive G-forces. I particularly enjoy the tilted loop element because it feels kind of unique and I don't see many inversions like it in other places. Part of me wishes I could have experienced this as Mantis back in the day when it was a stand-up coaster, but this ride does work with the floorless trains as well. Number 14 is Gatekeeper. As most B&M wing coasters are, this is a very graceful coaster with a bunch of near-miss elements. Although it doesn't have the punchy launch like Holiday World's wing coaster Thunderbird, it has many elements that make up for it and even make it a better ride experience. The wing over first drop gives a great moment of hang time as you slowly rotate around the track, and you get many more moments of hang time throughout the rest of the ride as well. The keyholes make for some great near-miss moments and also allow this ride to look spectacular as you walk into the park. And also, due to the graceful nature of this ride, I find that the vest restraints don't tend to get forced down and staple me as badly as they do on other rides, so they're a little more bearable. Number 13 is the Bat at Kings Island. This is easily the best of the three aerodynamic suspended coasters I've been on, with the others being Iron Dragon at Cedar Point and Ninja at Six Flags Magic Mountain. It has a great setting kind of off the beaten path and out in the trees, which makes for a nice scenic ride experience to go with all the thrills offered by it. As a whole, this coaster is quite smooth and the cars swing very fluidly, creating a fun experience. While the ride is fairly short, it didn't really feel like that to me, and I didn't really feel like it was missing much at all while I was sitting on the final brake run. Number 12 is Gemini, a special systems coaster by Aerodynamics. Okay, I know I said I was only going to rank the coasters that I rode during this trip, but this is going to be my exception. I really wanted to get to ride it, but it kept being broken anytime I attempted to get on it, which is unfortunate because I had some pretty fond memories of this coaster from my last visit. Gemini offers plenty of great airtime and the racing feature is super fun. I really hope Cedar Point keeps it around because it really is a lot of fun and I hope I can get back on it again sometime. Number 11 is Magnum XL 200, an Aerodynamics hypercoaster. The third aero coaster on this list is also the best one. It has fallen from grace quite a bit unfortunately, as it probably would have made top 5 on this list a year ago. The airtime was great as always, but the Magic Seat ride caused the airtime to be a bit too strong to the point where the ride was a bit uncomfortable. I felt like I needed to play defense while on the ride, which makes it tough to justify it being higher. That being said though, this coaster is still very fun and provides a great sense of speed and a spectacular view from the lift hill. Just breaking the top 10 is Banshee. While Kings Island's B&M invert is the less stellar of the two in Ohio, it does still provide a superb ride experience. Starting out, the first drop is great in the back row and was more intense than I expected. You definitely get a greater sense of speed on here than any other invert, which is super fun. However, despite that, the larger elements cause the ride to feel less intense and have less whip than all the other inverts I've ridden. The pretzel knot was probably the best and most intense element on the ride and felt very similar to the batwing element found on other B&M inverts. And I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but once again, I must bring up the uncomfortable vest restraints, especially on an invert. These restraints tend to get forced down even more on a ride like this, causing me to get stapled even worse than I would on a wing or dive coaster. Number 9 is Diamondback, a B&M hypercoaster. This would probably be a bit higher, but I just didn't get a very good ride on it this time around. I only got one ride in the morning while it was fairly chilly outside, and because of that the airtime didn't feel very powerful. It still gave me some solid floater though, and the first drop was particularly good this time around. The setting is also quite nice, having a lot of trees surrounding the back half, and of course that splashdown at the end. I wish I could have gotten another ride on it so that I had a bit of a better experience, but even with that one, this coaster is still a lot of fun and feels very fast. Coming in at number 8 is Raptor. While Cedar Point's B&M invert isn't as tall or fast as Banshee, the tighter elements make for a much more intense ride experience overall. Even saying that though, the first drop still surprised me with the stomach lifting sensation I was not expecting from an invert. Naturally, I rode in the back row, so I got to feel every bit of whip this coaster has to offer on all of its inversions. And despite how old this ride is, it felt very smooth to me and I experienced no headbanging. I seem to not experience headbanging on many of the rides that other people claim to experience it, so I'm really wondering why that is. As I said in my last video, I find the traditional over-the-shoulder restraints to be much more comfortable than the vest restraints. Raptor overall feels very intense and has a great layout. The mid-course brakes didn't really slow it down for me and it hauled through the entire layout up until the final brake run. Number 7 is Orion. The coaster by B&M is the first Giga to appear on this list after a pretty substantial rise in my rankings from my last visit to Kings Island. Like all Giga coasters, Orion has an insane first drop, but it also seems to have a much different layout and element focus than other Gigas I've been on. While coasters such as Fury 325, Pantherian, and Millennium Force seem to largely emphasize speed and low-to-the-ground elements, Orion takes a different approach and performs some much larger elements, especially in the first half. The first two large bank turns are quite interesting in a fun way, and the speedhole that follows gives a great pop of airtime. However, the big camelback that follows has a trim brake on the front end of it that just kills any substantial airtime you would otherwise get from that hill, and drastically reduces the speed of the coaster throughout the rest of the layout. This is still my lowest ranked Giga coaster, but I did gain a new appreciation for it this time around, especially on that fun first half. Number 6 is the original Giga Coaster Millennium Force, Cedar Point's 300-foot monster manufactured by Intamin. I've always had the opinion that this ride is very overrated, but it jumped up in my rankings a significant amount after this trip. I still don't think it's anywhere close to the top 3 at Cedar Point, but I did gain a new appreciation for it this time around. This coaster does exactly what it's meant to do. It's not super intense, it doesn't have much airtime, but what it does do is feel very, very fast. The layout doesn't even have any specific standout elements that are particularly memorable to me, but it all just blends together for an awesome ride experience. While I do think the B&M Gigas have much better first drops than Millie, I think it has a better overall layout than Orion does with elements that complement the speed way more. Even saying that though, I was surprised to experience a gray out at the bottom of the first drop, and you also get a great view of Lake Erie from that lift hill. So even though I do prefer the B&M drops, this coaster still has some great qualities about its first drop as well. Even though Millennium Force doesn't do anything too fancy, it's just a purely fun ride that I could easily re-ride a lot if the lines weren't so long. Number 5 is the Beast, a wooden roller coaster built in-house at Kings Island. Alright, I finally got my first night ride and wow was it an insane experience. Once you head down the first drop, it's just complete darkness until you hit the second lift hill. Then as you go up the second lift, the light at the top of it just gives a cool ominous feeling before you once again drop off that lift into total darkness toward that helix, which manages to feel even more insane in the pitch black than it does normally, and that's saying something. While the Beast isn't the most intense coaster for the most part, it's just super fun and it's super long ride with one of the best settings on any roller coaster. It just feels so timeless and hasn't been very rough at all the times I've ridden it. I hope Kings Island keeps maintaining this ride so that we'll be able to enjoy it for many, many years to come. Number 4 is Mystic Timbers, a GCI wooden coaster. Kings Island's best coaster comes in at number 4 on this list, and it's just an amazing layout. It goes out and back into the trees while throwing an endless amount of twisted and relentless airtime hills at you. The out and back layout also feels like it gives a lot more airtime than GCI's twister layouts, as you spend a lot more time going through airtime hills than turns. Now don't get me wrong, Apocalypse at Six Flags Magic Mountain and Thunderhead at Dollywood are both amazing rides in their own right, but Mystic Timbers just kicks it up a notch and is absolutely the best GCI I've ridden. I also managed to get a sunset ride on it, which was just a magical experience. It vastly improved upon the already great setting and it just added another great element to it. Mystic Timbers is overall just a very intense and relentless ride experience that starts at the first drop and doesn't let up even for a second until that final brake run, and I absolutely love this coaster. And now we have come to the top 3. These spots are all taken up by the big 3 at Cedar Point. All 3 of these are world-class coasters and ranking them is quite difficult. They all sit firmly in my overall top 10 and I don't see that changing anytime soon. All that being said, coming in at number 3 is Maverick. This Intamin Blitz coaster has been my number one in the park for the last few years, but alas, due to a semi-lackluster ride and a new coaster, this has fallen to number 3. I have loved and still love this coaster very much, and it provides a great ride experience. The first drop is super fun even with how short it is, and the ejector hill and twisted horseshoe roll that follow are great elements and provide some great forces. The second launch is still super punchy and is probably my favorite part of the ride. The switchback turns and stangle dive that it thrusts you into are super snappy and feel like a mini Pantherian in some ways while also being a more complete ride. My only nitpicks about it for this trip are that the restraints bothered me a bit more this time around than on previous visits, and the coaster felt a bit less intense than I remember, but it wasn't anything too serious. And this coaster still provides a very rapid fire and snappy experience that is hard not to love. Taking the silver is Steel Vengeance. The RMC iBox hybrid that is widely considered to be the best coaster in the world comes in at number 2 for me, finally managing to surpass Maverick, at least for the time being. It was a very tough decision between this and Maverick, but I just got some better rides on Steel Vengeance this time around. This coaster was firing on all cylinders during both my rides, and it gives just so much airtime that it's impossible to not rank it extremely high. It was running smooth as ever, and all the elements just flow together so perfectly. The best part of the ride is easily that massive Outer Banked hill. It keeps you out of your seat for so long that it's kind of ridiculous. On top of the airtime and amazing inversions, the ride is just so long and never seems to run out of steam until the final brakes, and it's just an otherworldly experience weaving throughout the structure in the second half. My one and only knock on it is that many of the elements just feel like larger versions of things found on other smaller RMCs, and just outside of the Outer Bank, none of the elements are all that memorable to me personally, which is my main reason for it not making the number 1 spot on this list. And of course, that means there's only one option for the number 1 spot on this list, and that is Top Thrill 2. Now, I'll be extremely honest and admit that this coaster intimidated me a bit while I was standing in line for it, even though I've ridden the original dragster and loved it. Something about the idea of going backwards at 100 miles an hour and up that back spike just made me slightly nervous for some reason, even though I have no fear of roller coasters. Well, any nervousness I had instantly faded the second I got to ride this monster of a coaster. The first launch wasn't anything too special, but as soon as we hit that backward launch, things were easily cranked up to an 11. It is so intense and such an amazing feeling going backward that fast, and then to top it off, going up that back spike was absolutely ridiculous. I got a great view of the park while feeling more weightless than I ever have on any other roller coaster. I seriously could not comprehend what I was experiencing in that moment. And then the final forward launch was also super intense, getting us up to that 120 mile an hour mark. While it can't beat the original hydraulic launch of the old dragster, the overall longer and more diverse experience more than makes up for it. I don't think I can say one is better than the other because they are different experiences but are both otherworldly in their own way. I got 2 rides on Top Thrill 2, one in the very back and the other in the middle of the train, and I think both had their pros and cons. The back row was of course a lot more intense and allowed me to reach the highest point on the back spike. I also got flung over the top hat a lot more quickly than I was expecting. However, the ride did have a fairly noticeable rattle that was amplified in the back row. Sitting in the middle gave a slightly less intense experience, but also felt much smoother in comparison. And to be honest, I didn't really feel much of a difference in terms of how high I went on the back spike or anything like that. Both rides were excellent and were absolutely worth the 90 minutes I waited both times to ride it. Oh, and I forgot to mention that my second ride was at night, so the overall view I got of Cedar Point while up there on that spike was absolutely spectacular, and the ride overall was definitely enhanced by that setting. Maintenance issues aside, Zamperla did an amazing job breathing new life into a legendary coaster and creating a very worthy successor to Top Thrill Dragster. I loved every second of Top Thrill 2, and I can't wait for the day that I get to get back on it. Do you agree with my list? Let me know your rankings in the comments below. These 2 parks offer so many great coasters that sit inside my top 50 that it's honestly kind of hard to believe. Ranking them all up is hard, but I love ranking things, so it's a super fun topic to think about. I have a few more trips planned to some more new parks in the near future, so let me know if you'd like to see my rankings on those once I get there, or let me know if there are any other videos you're interested in seeing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.